Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. All right, it's Thursday, people. It is the first week of September. It is Labor Day weekend, right? Yes, Labor Day weekend, and, well, here in the States. And, we are really excited about this 4-day situation. Some of us have 5 days. That's awesome. But for the people like myself who only have 4 days, what can we do? Not very much, right? There's just so many little COVID debacles all over the country right now, but let's make the most of it. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you, your time, your effort, your energy. And again, thanks for joining me today. And if you are an OG, you already know what I'm going to say. You are all that and several bags of chips and all that other good stuff. So thank you so much for joining me as usual. I want to start a series. On just personal interactions with each other, and also the identity of what true manipulation is and can be, how it manifests, how it works, how it's generated, how it's perpetuated, how it's utilized, and whom it's utilized on most. And I say that because a lot of us really don't understand it. We all have a manipulational characteristic about us, period. No matter who you are, we're all made that way. It only becomes super tricky when you realize that individuals are taking the time to be overly manipulative, overtly, deliberately trying to really run, rule, and be something that they're not, but also trying to make sure that you're never going to become who you are. Typically, a person who can utilize those type of skill sets really comes from a very broken place. So let me start there. I don't really think, truthfully, anyone sets out to be malicious. I think love is always going to be the key for the average 95.999% of the world. There are a few people in the world exclusively to themselves that I believe that walk in a manner that to hurt someone just kind of makes them happy. If you so happen to run into one of those types of people, be aware, look at the red flags immediately and bounce. If you can almost identify with why an individual would be the way they are, and I always like to call it, our foundational stories, right? We typically have used the word as like our roots or our basis, foundation of who we are. You can almost certainly find the reason, right? The cause in a relatable, understandable way as to why people react the way they react or act. I say that because I really do believe we all have a story to tell, right? We all have a story that we've gone through. We all have a history of something that was good, bad, or indifferent in our lives. And typically we make decisions based on that information. When you think about it from that avenue, you have to then always put yourself in the place of understanding. That doesn't mean that you tolerate. It doesn't mean that you enable. It doesn't mean that you lose who you are and not communicate and, hold your feelings and identity in. But it does mean that when you see it and you address it, hopefully still in a respectful tone to whomever you're dealing with, you find yourself to be in an authority of understanding you can't control them, but you can control yourself. If you can do that, then you walk in a manner of judgment that does not have a manipulational aspect about it. Now, people say, oh my God, Percita, did you actually say judgment? I absolutely did, because we don't want to identify as a whole, as a society, as a human race of people, black, white, brown, Asian, non-Hispanic, across the board. We all are judgers, and we do it effortlessly. We do it in a manner that we don't even really want to address half the time because we want to believe that we don't judge each other, but we do, because that's just what we're made of. That's just how we are set up. We're always going to be in a place of trying to not be bothered, because society has now made people believe that if you're not bothered, then somehow you hold some sense of authority over others because you can kind of run your life and not walk through it caring. I'm a little notorious in making a statement like, I don't really care. And I realize that even in that rhetorical statement that I have made through the years, I do care, but I am not in the position of allowing it to run me. I do judge, but I'm not in a position to allow the judgment to then cause me to concretely solidify a person's character or their circumstance, unless It's a continuum that has just happened over and over and over again, and their happiness is tied to only their history. I don't believe in tying my happiness to my history. So I'm a person that literally says that, yes, I've gone through something, but I will not allow that to stop me to be better. And not all people are like that. So I say all of that to give you just the lead in on how I feel about manipulation as a whole, and how I feel about the individuals who use it as tactics to either sustain, acquire, or demolish a relationship. And it actually has all three of those characteristics. And we're going to slowly this month break each one of those down with a little genre of conversation between each one, and and really dig deep on what that is, because I think it's a very interesting topic for people to talk about. And I also think it's a very interesting, conversational piece, because everyone has a perspective about it. Everyone believes what they want to believe about it. And do understand that life is about that. Life is about different perspectives, and life is about looking at the same thing from different angles and respecting and believing that each individual person is giving you their information from what they see. It may not be what you see. What I'm saying, or what I'm going to say, may not be an experience that you have experienced or you believe to experience, but respect the fact that I'm giving you the information, and if and when it's necessary for you to apply it, that you'll be able to do it, right? So the first part of manipulation that I want to just briefly touch, because again, I'm going to briefly touch something about manipulation with every video, and then we'll do a big conglomerate of like all of what I'm saying at the end. And today's manipulational tactic is what I like to call a disrespectful one. And the reason why I call it a disrespectful one is because typically people who want you to only focus on them and why they feel that it's okay to disrespect you flips the script to only want to identify your reaction to whatever that is. So prime example, you could ask someone to do something and they don't do it. And you go over and over and over and over again about, these are the things that I really need you to do. And they agree and they say they understand it. But in the back of their head, there's something that's still going on that they feel some kind of a way about it. Some type of a control, some type of a anger, some type of a passive aggressiveness. So even though they've agreed, they're definitely not interested in doing what you say. And time can or cannot elapse during, the next transgression, so to speak, between the two of you. But what you'll notice is that when you then address that they are still doing what it is that you asked them not to do and they agreed to, they're more upset at the fact that you are still asking them whatever it is that you're asking them than the fact that they are literally disrespecting the fact that they agreed to do whatever the said task was, and they're still doing it. And it's funny because you don't even recognize that it's happening until you realize the conversation becomes the person literally being upset with your reaction, not the act or the action of what they're doing. And typically you're only upset because you're literally bringing back up the logic of you said you weren't going to do that anymore. So why do you keep doing it? So instead of them addressing that they're still doing it, they literally get upset with you that you're still saying it. Now, that's going to be an interesting one to talk about. I'm going to talk about it more extensively. But today I just wanted to give you that caveat going into this 4-day weekend to ask yourself, how many times have you actually had an interaction with someone and you've asked them to do something and they've agreed because the conversation was just that, an agreement, and they continue to do it? And it could be continue to do it over a matter of years, over a matter of days, weeks, whatever. But they continue to do it, even though they've apologized, even though they've expressed themselves to understand that they won't do it anymore, that they agree with you, whatever it is. The agreement is solid, right? Rock solid. But yet, they continue to do whatever it is that you ask them to do. What's the reaction of the individual when you address it again? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be anger. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be some sense of displacement, of frustration. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be emotional on the part of the individual who feels as if you are just nagging and you're bringing up the same thing. Never have I ever met the person who actually addresses it if they're using manipulation as their tactic. And what I mean by that is that the entire time, the individual had no regard for what you were saying. They didn't even really care. They literally just didn't want you to continue to talk about it. They literally would do anything it would take in order for you to stop talking so that they could move on. You know that a person is manipulative when I just said what I said. They literally continue to do whatever it is that they claim to be sorry about. And they remain in a disrespectful manner and regard themselves as being emotional about it because they never wanted to change it. When you think of change, change is an action. There's absolutely nothing that can happen that doesn't have an action that's attached or sustainable through change unless action is happening. So let me say it again. You must change. Change requires action. There is no change without action. So if a person continues to do that and they're literally or do whatever it is that we're saying that they did or do or claim that they would not do anymore, you'd have to understand that that is a manipulation tactic, because then the argument or the confusion of conversation or communication becomes, why are you reacting? And that's where you have to stop and ask yourself, what's really happening? What is really going on in this situation? Are you actually being in the wrong for addressing something that was supposedly already solidified? Or are you wrong for allowing the continuous disrespect of only being in a position of understanding that the words back on you trying to defend your emotions about whatever the circumstance is the crazy part of the manipulation on your part? It is very complicated to change sometimes, and it is very complicated to put yourself in a position to not grow tired or weary or upset when a person has agreed to change a characteristic or something about themselves. But what you really have to start asking yourself is, has this person's track record with you been one of respectfulness or disrespectfulness? Because that will lead you to understand what that type of manipulational tactic is, which is why I stress the point of it being a disrespectful scenario. Because respect allows you to fear what a person's response would be in regards to you not upholding your integrity portion of whatever the conversation is. Now, when I say fear, I don't mean it in a manner of anything more than they cherish the relationship enough to make better judgments, to solidify and secure the relationship than to ever put themselves in a place of losing you. Okay? So if you can then apply that to that scenario, you'd understand that typically you're not in the wrong if you are then asking for something you've already asked for. The person continues to do it, and you're asking them yet again to not do it, but yet they get upset that you're asking or that you have a reaction to them continuing to do the thing that they said. That, my friends, is manipulation with disrespect. And people will say, Percita, isn't all manipulation disrespectful? Of course, it has a tactic. But this particular one, I call it disrespectfulness because it really epitomizes what disrespect is. It really does. So today I wanted to just touch bases on that. Today I wanted to give you a little bit of food for thought over the weekend because you have 4 days to think about it, so why not? And of course, I just wanted to come back strong in order to give you an idea of where we're going this particular month. So as always, right, think on those things. Think about what I'm saying. Hit me in the comments if you have any relational scenarios that you can utilize to tell me, if you don't mind, sharing it publicly. And as always, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and all those other good things to the channel. I saw that we have a few new subs. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And, again, I want to make sure that you remember to do 3 things. Live life authentic. Live life authentic. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you after the holiday. And yes, I will be here. So you will have a video next week. Okay? As always, have a wonderful, wonderful day and enjoy your time off. Bye-bye.